Which do you like better, all-included pricing or a la carte pricing? Which company lost millions in dollars and customers and then gave their CEO a 100% pay raise? And how to increase your prices on your products and services and not lose business, all that and more coming up next on episode 61 of Open for Business.
This is the Hartford Online Radio Network. 21st Century Audio. Delivered. onthehorn.com.
Bandwidth for On the Horn is provided by Amazon S3 servers. Amazon S3 is storage over the internet. Retrieve any amount of data at any time from anywhere on the web. Highly scalable, reliable, secure, fast, and inexpensive. All from a name you trust, Amazon. For more information about Amazon S3 storage, visit aws.amazon.com. Hi, everybody. I'm Brian Parker, and I'm joined today by Lon Seidman, host of Behind the Video, lead writer at cttechjunkie.com, and he's also a partner in Safety Zone, his family's glove and safety equipment business, safetyzone.com. Hello, Lon. How are you?
Hello, Mr. Brian. How are you?
I am doing just great, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you. It's a new year today, 2013.
It's hard to believe. It went by very quickly. The years seem to go by faster as I get older.
I've noticed the same thing. I mean, now you have a daughter, so I see it's going to be even faster from what I
And
what I
you
hear.
are now expecting a youngster.
Yes,
daughter
a daughter also. Yeah.
Oh, you do know?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my gosh, they're going to be fabulous friends. It's so exciting.
They will be. They can do a show together.
Well, it's good to have you here, and it's good to have all of you here. Evan in the chat room is waiting for you guys to have a little discussion in there. We are Open for Business, the podcast that explores all things business, entrepreneurship, technology, marketing, customer service, making a few dollars for yourself. We have some hot potato items I want to get to, and it kind of leads into our major discussion about how to raise prices and not lose customers. But there's this thing, this a la carte pricing, and the airlines have really embraced this, Lon. A la carte pricing, add-on fees. Initially, it was, they were trying to keep the fees low and competitive with their other brethren airlines, but then they kind of nickel and dime you. But even folks like, Southwest, where your bags fly free, everything is a little add-up charge, a little bump-up charge. Oh, you want to have a better boarding position? Give us $15, $25, $30, and we can get you there. Well, what do you like, Lon, for this a la carte pricing for the airlines? Do you want all-inclusive or what?
I want all inclusive, I think, or at least to know, up front what everything's going to cost me when I get on the plane.
Right.
I have to say I've moved most of my flying business to Southwest, and I've done that because of the no baggage fees and the no change fees. And when we were doing some of the NASA coverage for Tech Junkie, and you can check that out at CT Tech Junkie to plug it. When we were doing that, we had to change our plans constantly because they kept delaying the rocket launch. There's a lot of rocket science and stuff. So,
right.
So I was changing flights literally, 2 or 3 times a day as we were hearing rumors about things that were happening or not happening. And Southwest had a lot of flexibility about that, and you just pay the difference in fare. And sometimes I was actually paying less and getting a credit back, and sometimes I was paying a little bit more. But nevertheless, it was a legit change of fare and no change fee or anything else like that. In fact, I was able to cancel a flight that I had already checked into without being penalized. So that was a good thing. And yeah, you do pay extra for a better boarding position, and I found the value of that. Paying for the boarding position has gone down tremendously, because when I first did it, I was given like the first 15 boarding positions.
Right.
And lately, I did it on my last trip to LA, and I was like A47. So you're better off just logging in 24 hours before the flight takes off, and you'll probably get close to the same spot when you go to board. But
yeah, they all seem to have their little tricks there. My wife always logs in 24 hours before the actual flight, the night before, and you can get your boarding spot. But to me, I think I'm hearing the same thing, is you just want to know what it is and have some kind of standard across the industry.
Or just, I think people need to start voting with their wallets. I mean, part of the reason why I'm with Southwest is because I'm not getting nickel and dimed on everything that I do, and the things that are fee-based are optional things that are nice to have but may not be kind of a necessity. I think bringing bags with you on a trip is kind of a necessary thing, right?
Right.
And the fact is they don't charge for 2 bags. They charge for 3, but not 2. and Delta and some of the other airlines are just hitting you with fees left and right. And I decided, look, I'm not going to endorse this nor reward this company with more of my money for doing something that I disagree with. And I think that's every consumer's right. There are choices to make. And unfortunately, most people don't make those choices. And in the case of Delta, at least, the people that are paying fees are subsidizing those who don't. And those who don't are like the platinum elite flyers. So my father never pays a fee for anything at all.
Huh.
He gets free baggage. He gets, first class upgrades. He gets all this stuff. Now, granted, he's pouring a lot of money into his flights with Delta, but nevertheless, he's getting basically everything that I have to pay for. And I think there's just an inherent problem there. At least on Southwest, they treat all their passengers the same.
And what else I'm fascinated, but just by the airline industry itself, thinking about getting and keeping customers, the deviation of prices. A trip. I go down to Florida a lot to play golf. It can be, a $200 or a $600 ticket, same spot, same thing, relatively, same time of the year, and you never know what that price is going to be. And it's just, it's a crapshoot. And,
it is.
Thank God one of my good friends and sponsors of our website is this guy from Sandits Travel, who tries to help us out a little bit. But yeah, you can really get hurt. And if the idea is volume, you want more people to fly, because otherwise all you're doing is cutting expenses. You want more volume. Make it easier, make it more affordable, make it more enjoyable for us to go. One thing about Southwest is they have a great demeanor on the plane. I think their employees really have a lot of buy-in, which makes it an enjoyable experience. So I applaud them for that. You go on American Airlines and it's like, you're doing them a favor. And
yeah, right. You're like cattle on half these other flights. And I think, no airline is perfect. And, but I was standing online for a Southwest flight, and one of the guy in front of me was having a conversation with this other guy, and he's like, Southwest is like the quintessential American company. It's, it's lean, it's well managed, and it's on time. And I think that, largely that's been my experience with them. I know other people have not had the same experience, but I'm very happy to give them my money on a regular basis, mainly because they do a good job, and other airlines have not been doing the same for me. I think there's been some talk, and it's not something that the airlines have embraced, but there has been some experiments with on-demand flights where there's no set flight schedule, that they build flights based on what the demand might be. So case in point, there is no Southwest nonstop to Palm Beach right now from Hartford. So it'd be nice to have that, but they're not going to do that because they don't perceive enough interest in that. But wouldn't it be cool if a bunch of people could crowdsource a flight and say, hey, there's 200 of us that want to go to Palm Beach in this date range. Can you put a flight together for us? And there's been some experiments with that.
I would love that. We go down to Tampa an awful lot, and, there's nothing worse than, trying to get a flight down to Tampa, not wanting to absolutely overpay, and it's actually cheaper for us to fly down on the other side to Orlando, rent a limo, and drive over.
Right.
I mean, that that's ridiculous. That shouldn't be. But
it's crazy, and I think there's some real value to to maybe looking at these things based on crowdsourcing what the interest is and building flights around what people are willing to do, as opposed to just trying to make guesses in the marketplace. The airlines have access now, as we all do, to the internet and a lot freer exchange of information with their customers. And I think it might be worthwhile for them to perhaps reverse this notion of them trying to figure out what we want. And why not just ask us what our desired flight schedules are and when we're willing to pay for a flight? And maybe that will change some things too.
The airline industry is not alone in this being a pain in the neck. Probably the biggest pain in the neck for me are our cable TV providers, Lon.
Yeah.
And I want you to know something. Over this past holiday, my wife and I have become cord cutters.
Welcome to the club.
Welcome to the club. We have Roku, which was like, I don't even know how much that is. And then we also bought Apple TV, which I am in love with. And we bought a little antenna, and we get about 16 channels with that little antenna. So we get like our local news and all that kind of stuff, and PBS and various other channels. And then really, gosh, it's, everything was going on the DVR anyway. So us watching live TV wasn't really happening.
I got a tip. I got a tip for you, by the way, for customer service with cable.
What's that?
If you've got a problem, and I think you still have Comcast Internet, right?
We do have Comcast in it. Yeah.
So if you've got a problem, instead of calling the customer service department, just go on Twitter and start complaining. And I guarantee you, within 10 minutes, you're going to hear from somebody. And they solve the problem faster on Twitter than they do when you call them on the phone.
I believe that. Two, we've used this for. We had a problem with Sears. And I think I may have even included you on some of this stuff.
Yes. Oh, I was following your.
But you know, and you know, we don't have like 100,000 people following us on Twitter, but we have 8,000 or something like that, and that's great. And so yeah, these people like all of a sudden really were very interested in what we had to say. So Twitter's a great thing. But one of the folks that I now pay $8 to a month is Netflix. I'm also on Hulu Plus for like another $8 or $9 a month. But, he doubled, Netflix CEO Reed Hastings doubled the price. It used to be $12, kind of all inclusive, whether you wanted content, your movies streaming over the internet, or if you wanted to get the DVDs in the mail, $12, $13. Then it went up to 20 something. And there was big outrage. And folks like me said, you know what, that's not actually worth it. I'm not into that. And so we paid for the $8 streaming content only.
That's what I do too.
But he doubled his prices, lost millions of dollars in revenue, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and now has doubled his income. How has he done that? The board of directors decided to give him a raise. He went from $2 million to $4 million. Now I think it's
actually stress that he induced upon himself.
Yeah, I think it was $500,000 as a salary and 1.5 as bonus or stock option, et cetera, et cetera. But this is really I think this is the way of the future, and I'm watching the television content providers just kill themselves. I don't know why. This reminds me of before we had iTunes, Napster, which was basically free. Which was free, was just eating the lunch of the Recording Artists Association, and it feels like the TV guys aren't getting it. They're not understanding. HBO is another big sinner. I think there's actually a website called Take My Money HBO, or Please Take My Money HBO. Like
the streaming, right?
I can't believe that they just don't want to give us access to that. And it's really, who holds this? It's it's folks like Comcast, DirecTV. You can't get the new Aaron Sorkin, which is called the new Aaron Sorkin show called Newsroom. Mm-hmm. You can't get it unless you subscribe.
Right, unless you have the old way of watching it. It's like the print. It's like the print edition, where it's cheaper to get the print New York Times and get the digital with it than it is to pay for the digital on its own.
And you know what? That is not inexpensive. I was just looking at that. I wanted to subscribe to the New York Times. You can get it digital on all formats, whether it be like your iPad or your desktop or what have you, or your phone. And they bifurcate this out into. There's digital, but then there's digital for your iPad or your tablet, and then there's digital just for your desktop, and you can just kind of pick and choose one or get all of them.
My wife did the Sunday delivery, so she just gets the Sunday paper.
Yeah,
because she still likes, killing trees.
Yeah.
And you get the full digital thing with just that Sunday subscription. So that's what she did.
For free.
For whatever you're paying for the print part.
Well, that's it, because it was over $300.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
And
it's absolutely insane. And this is the thing; it's like propping up this dead business model. Same thing with the television stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Netflix has been kind of an interesting development, or an interesting company, because they effectively put Blockbuster out of business.
They did.
Because now you don't have to leave your house to get a movie. And
you know what's funny is Blockbuster could have been the also ran here, because
they tried to be.
I don't really know if they tried. I mean, you got folks like Amazon, that was a bookstore,
mm-hmm.
that has really come on. I mean, they're even a sponsor of our show with this storage, and then Hulu Plus. at it like I don't even know where Hulu Plus came from. They just sort of appeared one day.
Well, what they did, I subscribed to Netflix right when, because initially they were really expensive and they were charging by the movie, and it was a mess. And then they changed it to this all you can eat model where, you'd get 3 movies mailed to you, and then when you were done with one, you mailed it back and got another one.
Right.
And that was their model for quite a long time. And Blockbuster, after Netflix got going, Blockbuster did the very same thing. And it was exactly the same thing, except it was a blue envelope versus a red one. And what they added to the mix was they said, if you take Blockbuster, if you take this Blockbuster movie back to the brick and mortar store, we'll give you a movie for free at the store, which is a great deal. And then they give you 2 coupons a month for 2 additional movies at the store, or a game or whatever. And they couldn't sustain the business model, because all Netflix had was a bunch of distribution centers and their website, where Blockbuster had to develop the same infrastructure for mailing out movies and have the brick and mortar stores. And It got to the point where I was visiting the Blockbuster store a lot, but I was never paying for anything, because everything was free.
Yeah.
I think to myself, this is not going to last very long. And sure enough, it didn't. And I think this is what we're seeing with the New York Times and with the TV stuff too, which is, there is this older infrastructure with a huge amount of large companies behind it. And HBO knows that they can't, the market isn't quite there yet for them to say, you know what, we're going to turn off the cable provider and sell direct. They can't do it right now. It would kill the rest of their business. So they're kind of, married to the cable and satellite providers in a way that they really can't detach themselves. And I think they would put that business relationship at risk if they all of a sudden decided to do both the cable distribution method and the internet method. The problem for HBO, though, is that the less they provide people in the format they want it, the more they're going to steal it, because it's easy for people to go on BitTorrent and get the show that they want to watch. So, there's a lot of complexity here. And, I think they're kind of tied in with these cable providers to a point where they're depending on them to exist, kind of like how Zynga, the game company that does Farmville,
right.
They depend on Facebook, because that's the platform in which they can reach all these people. And, it's frustrating, though, for me as a cord cutter, because I do want to watch some HBO shows. I would rather pay for the shows that I want to see as opposed to just having a flat-out subscription. But, this is the kind of problem we're at, where customers want it a certain way, but the business model, the industry is just too integrated for them to figure it out. And that's where Netflix is trying to branch into a different direction. So Netflix went from being a competitor to Blockbuster. So they not only did they compete against Blockbuster, they effectively destroyed them.
Yeah.
Now what Netflix is doing is and Amazon is doing this too. They're moving into the realm that HBO used to play in, or still does, which is generating original content. So Netflix has done 1 show already, maybe 2. One of the shows was with one of the Sopranos actors. It was like this gangster that moves to like northern Canada or something. They're doing Arrested Development, which was a very popular show I believe on Fox, that was canceled and has a huge fan base, and they're going into production to make a new version of that. So they're doing the sorts of things that HBO has really been successful at, which is original content. They're starting to produce that. Amazon is investing in independent filmmakers, and they've done some studio work there, and we know what they're doing on the book publishing side. They're becoming more of a publisher too. So I think if HBO doesn't react to the way people want them to react, then Netflix has the potential to do really well here. And I think where we're going to see it go is that Netflix is really in a position to be successful here, because their main competitor, HBO, costs about the same for a monthly subscription, right?
Right.
Their main competitor can't go on the internet where all of Netflix customers want to be.
And that's just it. It's $12 or $13 for HBO as an add-on to
your $100 cable.
To
already.
Ours was $125. So, with $16 with Hulu Plus and Netflix, we're $100 plus richer each month. So that's terrific. But it really comes down to what you said, the original content creators. Excuse me. The one of the really surprise competitors to all of these folks, but really, folks like HBO is YouTube, because YouTube is now a distribution hub, and they always have been, but they're becoming a distribution hub to very professionally done, not just, people doing monologues in there and being funny like that Ray William Johnson guy. But there's this thing called Battlestar Galactica Chrome, which is a whole new, first of all, the remake of Battlestar was terrific and got, a bunch of viewers. I think it was like 6 or 7 or 9 seasons. It was a really long time. But this place Machinima is making extraordinarily classy, well done, well produced content. And what are they doing? They're releasing it on YouTube. So now YouTube, you know how much YouTube cost? Nothing.
Well, it doesn't cost, right. It costs nothing to put your stuff there to already use. It's costing Google a fortune. But
it's costing Google a fortune. But again, Google is search.
But they're making money on it now.
Yeah.
Or so they say. And you know what the greatest thing about YouTube is that it is the most open platform in the world for this kind of thing. And anybody can make money on YouTube by just turning on the revenue sharing. So if you have original content, you can turn this on, and every time somebody watches an ad longer than 30 seconds, you get paid.
Oh, is it 30? Is that what it is? It's more than 30 seconds?
Yeah. So what happens
this video.
It's when you pop, and there's a whole bunch of different ways they pay people. But the way this is working now is that when you're on YouTube and you play a video and you see that pre-roll that starts up, you can skip the pre-roll ad, and if you do that, then the content creator doesn't get paid.
Oh, I feel bad now.
What's that?
I feel bad every time I watch yours. I skip that.
Yeah, don't do that. I got to eat here. Come on. So right, if you skip the ad, then they don't get paid. However, if you watch the ad, I think it's like 20 or 30 seconds. If you watch it for any length of time, longer than 5 or 10 seconds, even if you skip it at that point, they still pay. And it's been great. Now I have a couple different YouTube channels, but collectively I do probably about 30 to 40,000 views a month. And I'm making about $130, $150 a month in revenue.
That's pretty good. How many videos do you produce a month?
I do. It depends on how productive I'm feeling. So I do anywhere from 1 to 10 a month. What's interesting is that I'm not doing what Machinima is doing. Now, what Machinima is a studio. So they have staff and production, and they do all this really high end stuff because they have millions of viewers who subscribe to everything Machinima does. My stuff is more search-based, so I've been doing a lot of product reviews because that seems to be doing. Just looking at my analytics, that seems to have been the best choice for content for me to produce, and I can do these things very quickly. So my cost is very minimal, but people are finding my stuff through search. So if someone's looking for the latest Epson printer that I reviewed, then my review will likely show up at some point in that process. So and the reason why I'm able to do this and get this small amount of revenue for this hobby really is that YouTube is in the top 2 or 3 sites on the internet. So they get as much traffic, if not more, than Facebook does in a month. And that's the advantage of YouTube is that it has so many eyeballs that chances are if someone out there on the internet is looking for something, they're probably doing a search either on Google and getting to YouTube or doing a search directly on YouTube for some product that they're interested in.
So you're fishing where the fish are.
Yeah, it's like
really
eBay,
what it is,
right? I mean, why would you start your own e-commerce site if you could just sell your junk on eBay?
No, that's exactly right. What is the end of this? It's the content, which is where folks like Netflix and Hulu Plus and whoever YouTube or whoever else is out there, making it easier to get that content is really the key if you want more eyeballs, because then that becomes something you can make money off of. We were getting back to the New York Times. It was so complicated for me to figure out. It is not a 1 or 2 step process to buy the digital content for the New York Times.
It's so freaking complicated.
It is very complicated. It's not like you enter your credit card and you're done. It's like you got to log in with this password, and then you need another content password, and I don't know why they make that so difficult, but the real trick here is to provide value to your existing customers, and hopefully they can be a resource for you to get new ones, which kind of brings us to our our main topic here. What happens when you come to the conclusion that, you know what, I'm providing some good value here, and it's time I got paid a little more for it for whatever reason? What are the strategies that I can employ to increasing the prices that people pay for my product or services without losing any customers? Now, we had a lot of very, very clever folks kind of chiming in on here. One of them, by the way, we'll have to say, Inc. Magazine. Ken Cook, who's part of the show, one of the regular hosts, just has the day off for the new year, is one of the contributors to Inc. And of course, for some reason, I don't know why does this happen to you? Google Docs just kind of logs you out for no apparent reason.
Doesn't like you.
Oh well, we'll have to figure that one out. But so there's some good strategies here. Let me see if I can get to the Inc. Magazine one. No, we'll go to the SBA one first. First, building your pricing strategy into your business plan. This is one of those, you got a business plan, and if it's going to be a successful business, as soon as you open your door, the business plan changes immediately anyway. But once you get some of that, real interaction with your clientele, you have to find, all right, where is it that I'm going to start, increasing prices so I can provide more value? And I think that providing more value is the key, as far as I see, is not losing customers when you increase prices, because you want to not just, hey, I'm going to provide you the same stuff and I just want more money for it. You have to you got to get their buy-in to why it's important. Mm-hmm. But you were talking in your safety business, you obviously must be raising prices, not all the time, but over the many years that your family has owned it, you certainly have raised prices, even just to keep up with inflation. How do you guys handle that?
Well, it's we're in a fortunate situation in that we're selling actual goods, kind of an unusual thing these days, which are commodities. These are disposable work gloves. They're things that are used in a food service environment per se, and there's not a lot of innovation in the marketplace. So typically, there's the glove is a glove, although our gloves tend to be better than competing gloves because we spend a lot more time on quality control and whatnot. But as a result, there's some basic costs involved with buying the stuff and bringing it over from overseas, and we have a lot of price fluctuations that happen throughout the year, and sometimes the prices go up and sometimes they go down. The fortunate thing for us is that we've always operated in a very lean business, in that we tend not to have too much staff on board. We tend to keep our expenses as low as we can. And the result of that is that we've been able to keep our prices very reasonable, so that when we are faced with price increases, we're pretty much in the same realm as the rest of the market is. So within a few bucks here or there, we're pretty much where the market is at any given time. And I think that's part of it, is knowing what your marketplace is looking like and how much room you have, because sometimes you might be priced too low. I've advised some publications, online publications that I work with through our independent media network thing, that they're not charging enough. And sure enough, some of them raised their prices and didn't have any blip. In fact, they got more business than they did otherwise. So I think there's, you have to develop a real sense for what the market is and know what your leeway is. And you have to really be careful that you're not operating too richly per se, that you're keeping your overhead low enough that you have that flexibility. Because if you get into a situation where there is a downturn in the economy, you don't want to get into a bind where you have to raise prices higher than where the market's going to be, or
go out of business, which is a great point. Keeping yourself lean allows you to spend money on, for your case, it might be research and development of whatever these gloves are. But increasing again the value, and so while you're talking about increasing your prices, you're also kind of cross-selling what the next evolution, why it is that you need not just this glove or this content, provided to you by this publication. It's also that you're going to be getting this much better experience as you use my product or service. Do you tier your prices? If you buy so many of this, it's this, and then it's 10% off if you buy twice as many or something like that.
There's a whole bunch of different things that we do. I mean, certainly there's some advantages to buying volume. We sometimes have contracts that customers are bidding on that create unique circumstances too. So the pricing is actually we have a pretty sophisticated software program to keep track of all the pricing variations that we have by customer and situations like that. So
that's terrific for understanding this thing called price elasticity, which is how far can you stretch that price that the customer pays before they snap and they don't buy anymore. You want to be
again knowing the market pretty well. I think that's a real key to everything. To know your business.
One of the things that I have found is helpful in tiering. Everything, keep everything negotiable, but tier to the public. If you want to have something on your website or wherever, your publication about what your tiers are and how much something costs, keep it on the high side. And so when someone comes to you and says, "Boy, I really do need this. I appreciate this 10% discount, but I really need to do a little something more." Have that in your business plan to where you're thinking to yourself, all right, that's fine. We don't go out of business if I give this guy an extra deal. But this also goes again, keep your business operation lean. The biggest sin I see is operational money failures. When it becomes too expensive to run the place, now you have capital issues. So, your operation should pay for your capital costs. If you have, operating losses, you can pray that your capital investments don't go down if a machine breaks, what do? You're operating at a loss. If a computer goes down, if your computer network goes down, or you need to buy some new industry standard to keep up with pricing schedules on the internet, you need to have that kind of lean operation. So, your capital is never going to produce. It's only going to be a drag on your operating. That's always just going to be an outflow. Like your employees, they always say, employees technically are outflow only. They're not, unless they're salesmen, they're not bringing business in. They're fulfillment of the business. So you have to make sure that you don't overhire. And when you do hire someone good. How do you charge for your bill timing? This is something we had toyed with in my investment company, and it was really it became more of a exercise of hey, let's just figure it out. But I was interested to see, we're very tiny. We're under 100 million in assets under management. So there are these huge institutional companies out there that buy and sell, and they charge, and we charge just like they do on a quarterly basis. But no one has the exact same date. We just do it at the end of the quarter, the last day of the quarter. That's the price, and there you go. We keep it simple. But I was interested to see if the market on average was higher in the second month or higher in the second half of the first month or something like that, to see if there was a timing issue that maybe I could change my billing cycle, and just by that keep up with the flow of all these really big guys. But I don't know. Have you found that charging per quarter or per year works better for you?
Well, what we do is, we're selling goods again. So when the stuff leaves the door to go to the customer is when the bill gets made.
Do 30 days out, 90 days out, 120 days out? How quickly do they pay?
Oh, they're all pretty good about paying on time. So there's varying degrees of payment terms and that kind of thing. But generally they do a pretty good job doing that. On the media business side, we have very specific overhead costs involved with sharing the revenue with our members. So the Independent Media Network has about 80 websites, and we're essentially renting space on their website for these ads that go up. So we bill pretty much in advance. We require payment in advance, or at least close to it, so that we can pay people for that time that we're renting from their website. So I'm always of the opinion that you're better off billing as soon as you deliver the service or goods than and it probably varies based on what you're in. I mean, if you're in a financial business like you are, perhaps there's some industry standards involved with billing people. But in the businesses that I do, the second that good or service is delivered, the bill is out because you don't want to have any break in cash flow. Because really, when you think about it, you're, between the time that you deliver a service or deliver a product and the time that you're paid, you're essentially lending that money to somebody, and you're out until that check arrives to pay that bill. So I like to make sure that the bill is out as soon as the product is out.
One of the biggest pains in the neck that I had to help a client with was he is in manufacturing. He does helicopter airline parts, and a lot of his business is through the government, and he gets these requests for proposal, and sometimes you win, sometimes you don't, and you never really know. You never know who's bidding on it, and you just try to ballpark the bid. But he was winning so many of them, and the material comes in, he makes it, he ships it, and then he sends out the bill to the U.S. government. And the U.S. government's a little slow in paying sometimes, up to 18, 24 months.
Whoa.
And
That's
so this had gone on for 4 years, and he was at the point where he was literally out of money, had $13 million in backlog income that had yet to be paid by the government, and he didn't know what to do because he had to keep bidding because he has to keep the people working, but he had no way to purchase the initial material if he won a bid and get it out the door. And so he was in this kind of laggarding thing, and what does he do now? Now he has to go to a bank and get a bridge loan for goods that are, they're bought. They're not paid for, but they're bought, and it's the U.S. government. So you got to believe that they're going to be good for it. But it's one of those interesting little things that in manufacturing, it can get scary if you become too busy because you run out of money to buy material to make the next thing. If someone starts to kind of lag behind.
And then, you think about what that means for the government, that, all of their clients are having to take out loans and incurring all this overhead, which is driving up the cost of product for the government too. So.
It's true. Also, there's 5 last little tidbits, and then we'll close up shop. But tell me what you think about this. Avoid, this is funny, death by 1,000 cuts. Did you read that article?
I did.
What did you think about death by 1,000 cuts and increasing your prices?
Well, I mean, I think what the hard part is with any business, every business is different, right? So, you have to be really smart about how you do this stuff. And I think that's ultimately what all of this comes down to, right? I mean, is just knowing your business, knowing what your market is. And if you don't know what your business or market is, then you will die by 1,000 cuts, right?
Right. No, I agree. And, this is, you don't want to increase your price just a little bit right now because you're afraid, you're timid, and then increase your price a little bit because you're timid, then increase your price a little bit because you're timid. If you're going to increase your prices, do it substantially and have a little forethought and saying to yourself, all right, well, maybe this increase of prices, maybe this will take me over for the next 2 years. Let's do the big 2-year increase. Don't be apologetic about it and say, here's the real value. Sell the customer to it, and then they will know. They will have a little bit of certainty knowing that this does not. These guys don't raise their prices all the time. This is it's probably good for them to raise the prices. And then, you're done 2 years later, maybe you raise prices again, but don't do the little deaths by 1,000 little cuts, because then they don't know what to think of you. Every time they call you, it's going to be, I wonder what he's going to charge me this time.
Right. And by the way, another thing to think about here is a matter of communication, that keeping your customers informed and keeping that line of communication and that relationship established makes these discussions a lot easier. That if you're not dropping bombs on them every 25 days or something, that they know that, yeah, we're going to see some, in our business, we can see when things are going to happen. We know what the price of fuel is going to have, right, what impact it's going to have a few months later, right? So, it's keeping those lines of communication open to them so that they can plan appropriately to know that that critical product or service that you're providing, they can plan for those fluctuations. And if you're not informing them of where those things might go, then those price increases do become a problem. So, I think there's something to be said about some real common sense here. And I think, quite honestly, a lot of running a business is common sense.
Oh, sure.
Right? Let's just get back to basics, which is keep people informed, be a proactive communicator.
Yeah.
And spend some time with your customers who you depend on.
Not only that, there's another point here. Spend some time with your employees who are probably going to have more contact with those customers.
And keep them informed too. Absolutely.
Yeah, keep them informed. If you want your customers to buy into this, you got to make sure your employees have bought into it as well. Whenever possible, offer options. This is what I was talking about. Keeping your prices, if they're quoted somewhere, keep those a little bit higher just so you have a little wiggle room, so you can offer some options for your folks. And then play favorites, which is a very interesting idea. Typically, you don't, in business school, you don't want to play favorites. You want to be fair, right down the middle. But all of us have this problem where, 80% of our business comes from 20% of our clients. So really, you got to take care of that 20% because they're the lion's share of your income. So, if you need to make some exceptions where the bigger fish where you are get a little bit better deal, okay. Don't sell the house on it or get rid of the throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to say. But try to keep it as fair as possible. But if you need to play favorites, go right ahead. That'd be fine. Last thoughts, my friend.
Well, the only last thought I have is that I think just in business in general that being good to your customers and good to your employees, all of those things pay dividends, and being smart about how you spend your money and where. I think all of those contribute to running a successful company, and hopefully we've provided some insight here. But ultimately, it comes back to common sense and just being conscientious on all fronts.
He is Lon Seidman. You can check out his writings at cttechjunkie.com, or if you're in the need to buy some safety equipment, go to safetyzone.com. They spend a fortune on that website. Where else can people find you, Lon?
Long story on the website. You can find me at Lon Seidman, LONSEIDMAN.com. That'll link to my Google Plus profile. And just one thing I should have mentioned on the Safety Zone business, we don't service end users at all. So we are directly serving distributors who then service end users, and that is why our website is not the best in the world. So.
Terrific. Hey, thank you all for joining us. A true business-to-business website is what it is. Hey, we can't do this without you guys listening to us, so we do really appreciate it. Numbers have been out of sight. We really do appreciate it. And also our sponsors, Gateway Financial Partners, the accounting firm of Budwitz and Meyerjack, and our good friends over at Amazon.com. Very special thanks to Evan Richards, our chat room moderator. We're going to close up shop this week, but we'll be back next Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern when we'll once again be open for business. We'll see you guys. Bye-bye.